It had been a hurried morning. Orbie found out that you have to pick up marbles slowly to go quickly. Katie found out that putting socks on before your feet are really dry can be hard work. And they both found out that not everybody can sit in the front seat. Katie was very excited because today was her dance and movement class. Her dance teacher was very funny and made dancing a lot of fun, even if you weren't good at it. Mom and Orbie sat and watched through the big glass window. Sometimes all the kids would burst out laughing, and Orbie wished he could hear what was so funny, but he couldn't through the glass. After a few minutes, Mom asked Orbie if he wanted to take some lessons too. Orbie looked at the class, and even though it was silly, he didn't want to, because there were no boys in it. Mom was a little surprised, but then she had an idea. Why don't we go downstairs and look in the other windows and see what other kinds of classes there are, she said. We may find just the right one for you. Orbie was off his chair and halfway down the stairs before Mom finished talking. In one window, Orbie could see people talking and making strange faces. Mom told Orbie that was an acting class. Orbie headed for the next very noisy window down the hall. In this window, all kinds of children, boys and girls, had strange things in their hands and on their laps. Mom explained that it was a music class. Children learned to play instruments, and then they play together to make beautiful music. Orbie wanted this class right away. He wanted to make beautiful music so that Katie could dance to it. So Mom knocked on the door. The class hadn't started yet because everybody was still getting their instruments ready. The teacher, Emmy, was very glad to see Orbie, but made a sad sort of face. I only have one instrument left, and it's a big one. I'm not sure Orbie will be able to play it because he's so small, she said. Mom looked at Orbie and thought about all the things he could do even if he was small, and she saw in Orbie's eyes real excitement. She asked Emma if Orbie could try. Orbie beamed a great big, "I'll do my best" type of smile at Emma. And right then and there, she agreed. Orbie sat in a chair and waited for Emma to bring his instrument. The children in the class looked at Orbie and wondered what was up. Soon Emma came back with an enormous case as big as Orbie. Orbie's eyes widened. Inside was the most beautiful, gold, shiny, and enormous instrument. Emma smiled up at Orbie and told him it was a tuba. Orbie was too small to play the tuba right away, so she propped it up. "It really is too big for him," she said to Mom. Mom smiled at Orbie, who was in love with the great big thing in front of him. "I think he'll find a way, and if he can just play it, he'll know he tried." Emma told Orbie that he'd have to blow right into it to make a sound. It really didn't seem too hard to do, but as Orbie leaned forward, the whole class waited. Orbie blew into the mouthpiece just as hard as he could, and nothing at all happened. Some of the children giggled, which made Orbie feel a bit badly. He looked up at Emma, who told him that was perfect, but he needed to do a funny pucker with his lips, which she showed him. Again, the class was quiet as Orbie leaned in to make his note. There was a tiny squeaking kind of sound that came out between his lips. Again, the giggling happened, and Orbie felt red-hot dots cover his body. Orbie wasn't sure if that was the sound the tuba made. He looked at Emma. She told him that it took a lot of huffing and a lot of puffing to make the note come out. One thing that Orbie was good at was huffing and puffing, so he bounced up and down a bit, took in all kinds of air, and then puckered his lips and blew with all his might. A low, soft note came out. All the children in the class clapped their hands. Orbie smiled. During the class, Emma asked him to keep working on making notes while the rest of the class worked on making the right notes. Orbie puffed away. Mom was shocked when at the end of the class, Emma gave them the tuba to take home and practice with. She struggled with it all the way to the car. Katie was so excited that Orbie would play music while she danced. Maybe one day they could give a concert. That night, Katie went over her steps, and Orbie pulled out the tuba, and Dad helped set it up. Dad giggled to himself. Orbie wanted to know why, and Dad told him that it looked funny to see such a tiny person playing such a big thing. Orbie laughed too. That night, Orbie got 6 notes out. Every time he did, Mom and Dad and Katie cheered. Playing the tuba was hard work. He practiced every night, and every night he got 1 more note. But the truth was, it was awfully hard for Orbie to make that note. All the huffing and the puffing was making him dizzy. The next week, when he went back to class, all the children stood up and clapped when they heard how many notes Orbie could make in a row. But when Orbie finished them, he felt a bit too dizzy to play more. Emma told him to take a break and just rest. She left the classroom for a minute and talked to Mom and the head of the art school, Julie. Julie looked at Orbie and nodded her head. She then disappeared from the big window, and Mom sat down. She gave Orbie an encouraging look. Emma asked the rest of the class to practice. The music they were making started to have a rather nice sound to it. Orbie felt sad because he would probably never make music beautiful enough for Katie to dance to. Just then, Julie walked back into the classroom and right over to Orbie. She was carrying a small box. "I think you'll find this much easier to play than the great big tuba," Julie said. She opened up the box, and inside was a long, shiny thing. "It's a flute," she said. Orbie took the flute in his hand and he looked at it. He looked at the big tuba, too. He took in all kinds of air and blew as hard as he could. Emma told him that the flute didn't need even half as much air as the tuba. Orbie blew gently, and the note that came out was absolutely beautiful. It was a long, silvery note. Orbie smiled at Mom and held the flute up for her to see. And do you know that by the end of the month, he could play a song, and Katie, with her dancing, made his song look beautiful.
Did you know? No. Did you know? Did you know? All birds have wings, but not all of them can fly. Ostriches and emus can't fly, but they can run very fast. Penguins can't fly either, but they get to slide on the snow and swim.